Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 15, rankings by position. You want the rankings, you hit the description. Smash like and sub to the channel. When you sub to the channel, you get into a draw for, well, it's a $2,000 Christmas bonus giveaway provided by Mayo Media Network. There are 8 ways to enter this draw, and each different thing means a different amount of ballots. You can click the link down in the description, and you can find out the easiest way to go join everything. The big one is leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast while subscribing, by the way. 5 stars, Twitter handle in the description so I can know it's you who's left it, and boom, you're in. That's 7 ballots in the draw. You want to do the same thing for Spotify? Boom, another 7 ballots in the draw. The next $500 is being given away this Friday. The following Friday, $1,000 to whoever's name comes out of the hat with all of it. All right, there are 2 PME Listeners Leagues this week. There's one for the Saturday slate. It's a 3-max, $25, no rake. There's just over 1,000 spots in it, so you best go get that right now. And then just over 2,000 spots in the main slate for Sunday, $15 to play in that one, 3-max again with no rake. The 2 best tournaments on DraftKings in Week 15, they're both down in the description right now. Jake Ciely, we're going to hit this right off the top because I only want to talk about my fantasy teams because it's fantasy playoff time. I don't care about anyone else. I know how everyone just wants to hear about my fantasy team. However, I've lost my quarterback 3 straight weeks, so it was Lamar. It's not Lamar anymore. So I have a decision to make. I have Mike White currently in against Detroit. I'm not going to be playing him. Even just with the ribs, it looks like he's going to play. However, I just don't want to play a near freezing game with Mike White who can't throw touchdowns anyway. So my choices are, I picked up Heineke when he was on the bye. So I have Heineke at home against the Giants. I like him this week, although it's going to be pretty cold in Washington as well. And I think that the Giants were saving a lot for this week as opposed, once they saw what the score got to real early last week against Philly, they're like, fuck it. Let's move on to next week. That's a game that we need to win here. Or, and this is terrifying to me, and this is the decision. It's Heineke or Matt Ryan inside against the Vikings who can't stop giving up fantasy points to quarterbacks.
And it's not prime time. So Kirk Cousins should be throwing well in that game. Although the last time in prime time, he did pretty well too. So, wow. I was going to say Taylor Heineke was the lock, especially because I don't even think the Giants were necessarily saving anything. It's just something I mentioned to you 2 weeks ago with
They're
Heineke.
not any good?
And their defense isn't any good, and it's because they've had so many injuries. That's the biggest problem. I mean, it started with Xavier McKinney busting his thumb up riding bikes and stuff or whatever, ATVs or whatever he's doing, and it's just been injury after injury after injury. They're starting third strings, secondary unit players. So, look, I'll put it this way. It's the same answer I'll kind of give a lot of people. If you just want to check in your 15 fantasy points, maybe 18, I'll put Heineke in there. Taylor Heineke is like, if it's my team, I'm just playing Taylor Heineke. If I'm what we sit here and talk about a lot of times, if you're looking at your roster and like, man, I scraped and clawed to get in the playoffs, I'm probably a huge underdog. I'm going to need the ceiling anyway. Then it would be Matt Ryan.
I am a big underdog unless Mike Evans has been saving all of his fantasy points just for this week.
He almost got him last week. Look,
he almost gets him every week, and then he doesn't.
Oh, hold on. Look, I compared him to Gabe Davis. He's essentially Gabe Davis this year. It's like you might get 20 and you might get 5, and it's been bad. It's now been multiple weeks in a row, 4 or 5 weeks in a row. But I will say we saw it. I don't know if everybody was watching the game, but there was a touchdown called back. It was a big play touchdown where he left the defender in the dirt, and it got called back for holding. And then Tom Brady, at this point of his career, I guess he can make these kind of throws, completely miss through on that potential other touchdown. So I'm not saying Mike Evans is due, because that's not a thing. We can talk about that all the time. I'm just saying Mike Evans necessarily isn't as bad as he's been, and it's Cincinnati, although they're pass defense. But here's what you're hoping for: the shootout in that one, because the secondary for the Bengals is actually pretty good. So,
yeah, and probably no Trey Hendrickson either. He has the broken wrist. He might play, might just get it wrapped, but you got to think that's a downgrade with a broken wrist either way.
I think so. I mean, either way. I mean, you can still. I mean, you club it, I guess. Yeah. But
JPP plays with one hand now, and he's fine.
I know. He's still doing pretty good, and he's late in his career at this point. I would say what you just answered with is saying I'm a massive underdog. Then I would just risk it that Matt Ryan has one of his 303 touchdown games. He's had a few.
I know.
You mentioned. And so
It's
that's where it goes. Taylor Heineke is not going to score 30. Matt Ryan might.
Yeah. I'm just going to be very impressed if he makes it through the game. 3 consecutive weeks, Jake. The quarterback's going down. It sucks so much. But
Wait.
But I'm in.
Who else could I get hurt? Like, can we pick somebody else up and test the theory? You can pick up Desmond Ridder, see if he gets hurt in his first game.
I mean, he might put up the fantasy points of someone who gets hurt anyway, so I don't know about Desmond Ridder in this spot. Anyway, we're not here to talk about this. We talked about it enough. Let's talk about running backs for week number 15, what people are going to do. Now, this is a little bit different in terms of how the playoffs work, because we're going to deal with some situations, and just before we started recording, it came out that Dameon Pierce is going to miss 1 or 2 games. He's probably done for the season at this point. That would be my guess, unless he's... I mean, they can't. Maybe if they lose their next 2 games, then they clinch the number 1 pick, then they can bring him back. But they came a bit too close to the sun last week in winning a game. They can't have that happen again. So Derrick Henry is number 1 in the absolute best matchup of all time, unless you want to consider Christian McCaffrey on Thursday night at Seattle. Another tremendous matchup. Then it's a drop off down the list. So I have Jacobs, Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson. We'll talk about him in a second because he got hurt on Monday night. I had him at number 5. Chubb, Sanders, Barkley, Pollard, Jonathan Taylor. That's the top 10. Do you think Stevenson plays this week?
I think it's too early to say because the reports don't give us really any information. It's not a high ankle. It's not a mid ankle. It's not something where they can kind of start to speculate. It's not a concussion where we could assume that he's out. So I think at this point, it's up in the air. It sounds like he wants to. It sounds like they reported him initially last night day to day. So I guess there's a chance. But with the risk, even like let's just say it's day to day and he practices limited and gets through. I think with that risk, you'd have to knock him down to around Alvin Kamara behind Joe Mixon, just because of that concern.
Okay, I'll do that right now. I'll bump him down to number 11 by Joe Mixon because is Damian Harris dead? Did his thigh blow up? Is he ever coming back?
It's weird. So week 12 was when he busted up that thigh, which I mean, wow. I guess he really took a shot at. I know. What is that like? Did they kind of knock it off the bone a little bit or something? Like it's actually a little bit of a tear. I have no idea what's going on. You would hope that he could get back at this point, but he didn't practice at all last week. So the easy answer here for everybody out there is if Damian Harris somehow returns, he starts practicing this week and he plays and Stevenson's out, Damian Harris is not as high as Stevenson, but he's a top 20 play. Just put him in the volume. They load him at the goal line. Done. Simple. If Damian Harris is back and Ramondre Stevenson plays, then I don't move Stevenson down that much further. I'd probably put him around Aaron Jones because they have that similar profile of the upside in the passing game and the risk that Damian Harris is going to take the touches at the goal line because the Patriots still like to use Damian Harris whenever he's healthy this year. The big question comes if Stevenson and Harris aren't out, and that's where I think Harris is Harris, Kevin Harris is Damian Harris, Pierre Strong is Stevenson, which means I would play Strong over Harris, but I would put them both down by the Latavius Murray range. Actually, one in that range and then the other in the 30s.
So this is the big question with no more bye weeks. Last week, in a pinch, if you had people on bye, you had to turn to Travis Homer with Ken Walker out. He was a fill-in for that spot. Latavius Murray was a pretty good play last week because there were so few options. Some people even ended up playing Jarek because of that. But now these guys kind of get relegated and pushed back down to the list because every team is back in action. Do you envision yourself a playoff team with Stevenson and Damian Harris both out, actually starting Lucky Pierre in a fantasy playoff matchup?
Probably 9 out of 10 times, no. But there are handful of people out there.
Yes. There's going to be circumstances, like if you had Ramondre Stevenson, for example, and no backup, then you got to play him. But chances
and Dameon Pierce.
And Dameon Pierce, yeah. There are different circumstances that could lead you into one of these situations, obviously. But we now deal with the situation where, hey, let's say we find out right after recording the show, Damian and Ramondre are both out. It's not like Pierre Strong is the 12th ranked running back this week. He's 30-something.
No, exactly. Like I said, I put him down I played Cam Akers as much as I can't believe that's where we're back to. I played Cam Akers knowing his role over Pierre Strong. That's the speculation I'm putting out there is because of their skill sets and profiles and the fact that Pierre Strong is actually used in the passing game. it's also Belichick. I mean, they might sign somebody off somebody's practice squad. They might bring somebody else into the mix. So, no, I do not want to hinge my playoffs. I even said that in the breakdown to talk about the Houston Texans. There's no way on earth I want to hinge my playoff hopes on Rex Burkhead and Dare Ngumbawale. No, thank you.
Yeah. It's a lot like if Ken Walker ends up sitting and DJ Dallas ends up sitting on Thursday night against the Niners. Like, I want no part of Travis Homer. And that doesn't even mean he's immune to having a good game. Like, you really think I want to play a guy who couldn't do anything against Carolina against the best defense in football? No, thank you.
Well, don't forget Tony Jones getting all the heavy carries. What the hell happened with that report? I'm just glad it made me move Travis Homer down outside of the top 25.
I didn't even, it's funny, I just missed that report, so I just assumed Homer was starting, so I ended up playing him in a spot. But I know, like, on the team that I talked about that qualified for the playoffs, like, my backs are McCaffrey, Etienne, and Foreman. Like, I couldn't play Homer either way. I wasn't playing him over Foreman. If you had told me Donta Foreman was going to get 17 carries against Seattle in a Carolina win, I would have thought he had 35 fantasy points.
If you told me 17 carries, actually every single time before that this year that he had 15 plus carries, he hit 110 yards. So I would have said 120 yards was coming on the ground. I'm lucky that fourth quarter happened because I had the over on a 64, 65, somewhere around there. I had the over, and I was sweating it out. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is happening with Chuba Hubbard in this game? And not to the degree that you and I have talked about all season, but the volume, I was like, whoo, I'm glad that fourth quarter came around.
So what if Ken Walker plays?
I think you go back to this. This is different. I think that's what you're about to ask. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like, so David Montgomery earlier this year is like they brought him back, and it was like, is he ready? And it's like they just brought him back, which tells you, yes, he's ready because Khalil Herbert's been great. You see other running backs, they come back, and it's like the other person replacing them is playing great. So if you bring back the incumbent, it's kind of like why would you do it unless he's 100%? This is the other scenario. This is, it looks so terrible, so god-awful, and DJ Dallas was hurt 2 games ago, and like this backfield stinks without Ken Walker. Is he really 100%? So saying that, I think you still have to play Ken Walker. There's just too much upside with him, and you're talking about with the playoffs. But I think
I'm looking at the rankings right now. So let me give you 11 through 20. Right now.
Okay.
So I moved Mixon. He was at 11. I moved him to 10, dropped Stevenson to number 11 based on what we know at the moment. Obviously, these rankings are going to change. Hit the description. I update them every morning, especially this time of year. I'll update them with every injury this time of year. That awful Alvin Kamara walks into a great situation. He's number 12. Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Zeke, James Conner, and J.K. Dobbins, who look really good, actually. And then it's like,
the performance looked really good. That left leg didn't look good while he was doing it, though.
Yeah, but he did it. So as long as he's still active, he's going to be the guy there. They're going to try to run as much as possible. Then I'm into like ETN. I got Raheem Mostert without Jeff Wilson, who's now injured. I don't know whether he's going to play or not. These rankings reflect only Mostert playing. Bam Knight against Detroit. Jamal Williams against the Jets. Donta Foreman. Latavius Murray. Like, would you play?
I'll tell you where I put him.
I would put him at number. Would you play Donta Foreman or would you play Ken Walker?
I would play Ken Walker, but I would switch up your ranks a little bit. The volume is all there, but I'm concerned about the matchup for Travis Etienne and the matchup for Raheem Mostert. My ranks in your rankings would actually go Dobbins, Ken Walker, Zonovan Knight. No, I'd actually go Dobbins, Zonovan Knight, then Ken Walker, then Etienne to Mostert. So that would put him, for me, at 22. But even if you put him at 24, point being, that's why I was saying you're probably playing him. He's a low-end RB2 because of the risk and because it's not a great matchup for him. But at the same time, maybe you get 10 for 30 and he looks like crap. On the flip side is maybe he gets broken for one big play and finds the end zone. So that would be my cutoff. I'd probably have him, for me, in your ranks, 22, but I mixed up your ranks a little bit. But I think the furthest you can push him is 24, 25.
That's exactly where I was landing on it, too. So I don't think by any means he's a must-start if he comes back. You could have better options.
You could, but wow, I would be impressed if you had 3 better options. 2 is possible. 3 better options than him.
I would still play ETN over him. I would. I don't care about the matchup. I care about him getting his 15-plus touches and maybe doing something against Dallas.
15-plus touches equal 30 yards.
Well, listen, sometimes guys have bad games. And if it was just Ken Walker not injured against San Francisco, how high would he be? It's not like he would be the regular top 5 guy. He'd probably be around Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, right?
Yeah, but that's significant. That's almost an RB1.
That's when he's fully healthy, not a guy who has an ankle injury that can't be described, hasn't practiced.
Well, then let me ask you this.
And then now going against the San Francisco defense.
Let's say, because we have no idea what the hell is going on, because you just said it can't be described. Let's say he's a full practice on Friday.
No, it's not on Friday, though. It's on Thursday.
Oh, okay, full practice on Wednesday.
If it's full practice on Wednesday, yes.
I forgot that was the Thursday game.
Yeah, it's the Thursday game. That's what makes it even worse.
So I would still keep him in the range we talked about. Here's the one thing I will say that kind of opens up to say, we talk about like trying to keep fewer decisions on your team. Like, don't draft 2 high-end quarterbacks and then be like, oh, I'll trade one. Because then until you get to the point that you're trading them, it's like, who do you start? And you always pick the wrong one. I'm saying that to say this. If you're like, do I start? Let's say he's active. This could all be moot by tomorrow.
Yeah.
But let's just say Ken Walker's playing, and you have the choice. Do you start Ken Walker or do you start Latavius Murray? Me personally, I would start Ken Walker because a decision's been made for me. If Ken Walker has a good game, I know I can play the rest of my lineup just the way that I planned. If he has a 10 for 30, then I say, you know what? That toss-up I was trying to decide between my wide receiver 3, I'm going to go with Gabe Davis. I'm going to go with Mike Evans. I'm going for the home run play because it kind of helps make you a decision for a potential other toss-up.
I think that's pretty comparable, though, because obviously the Patriots didn't run a ton against the Cardinals, but no Mike Boone, he's going to be out. Hackett already came out and said that. I doubt we see Russell Wilson, so we have Rippon. Like, this could be a Latavius Murray 25-carry game, even if it's going for like 2 yards a carry.
I know, which is Mike Boone was actually pushing for a 50-50 split early in that game, too.
Well, he gone.
Yep, he gone. No, that was the return of the Mac, the Hall of Famer.
Hey, it was a 70-yard touchdown. Look pretty. He stumbled for 20 yards into the end zone.
I know. He basically did that gif of Daniel Jones, but somehow stayed up for the rest of it.
So the other guy I did want to talk about, if somehow you've made the fantasy playoffs and you have Cam Akers on your team, I'm just looking at the rankings right now. This is why I do. I have him at number 29.
Is that a shot? Wait. Is that a personal shot, Pat?
Listen. I didn't make the playoffs in the teams where I drafted Cam Akers in the 4th round, unfortunately. But if somehow, he's probably dropped at some point, and someone probably picked him up in your league. But I have him at 28, and I'm just looking at it right now. Like, would I play? I should probably move him ahead of Jarek. That's far too much recency bias on my end. I still like Jarek because we saw what the upside is. There's plenty of downside to go with it too. It's a really good matchup for Cam Akers against the Packers on Monday night.
Yes.
Would you play him or Donta Foreman? Because I'm not convinced this is all Chuba Hubbard all the time. I think that was just working, especially those off-tackle runs against Seattle. And it's not even like Foreman had a bad game. Foreman had a good game. He just didn't score touchdowns.
Yeah. So I think the question comes down to, do you think they're in it or not against Pittsburgh?
I think they are.
I think, yeah. So, excuse me. I think that was a weird so. I think that's a good toss-up. Against Green Bay, I probably slightly lean Cam Akers because of the split, but I still think that if everything breaks right for Foreman, we could get another one of those 100-yard games. I put it this way. I don't want to say, like, hey, wait and see. I wonder if Deonta Foreman, that was a lot of touches, not to be, but Deonta Foreman, was he 100%? Like, was that just kind of getting him back into the game flow? Or maybe he was, and they just didn't want to give him the 100% like he had in those games where he had the 20 carries and get him hurt again. I think I still lean Deonta Foreman just a bit, just because I think they're in this game, especially if Mitch Trubisky is playing. If Kenny Pickett's playing, not that it's a massive upgrade, because Kenny Pickett's not that good, but that might be enough to lean me towards Cam Akers if Kenny Pickett's at quarterback, because I could see that being enough of a firepower, I put that in quotes, firepower in that offense to maybe have it go sideways, and then either way, Cam Akers is in the game against Green Bay. Like, that's the difference there.
I'll put him at number 26, one spot behind Foreman, one spot ahead of Latavius Murray.
I'm okay with that.
After that, we got like Jarek and Pacheco back-to-back. Obviously, they can both contribute, and they both do two completely different things. I worry this isn't much of a McKinnon game because they're 14-point favorites against the Texans.
Yeah.
Should I bump them down?
No. I thought that was the end of your statement. I thought you were going to bump him down after saying that.
No, now that this is why I talk it through with you, because now that I've kind of talked myself into that logic, it feels far more like a Pacheco game. Not that I want to boost up Pacheco all that much.
I do.
How much?
Not an enormous amount. I would play Pacheco over Jamal Williams.
So you would play, like, would you play him over Ken Walker if Ken Walker was healthy? Like, limited and game time decision? It's like, oh, he's going to play. And we're not even factoring in the bottom side of the bell curve in terms of range of outcomes where he pulls a full-on T. Higgins from last week.
By the way, that should be... How did Zach Taylor get away with that? How's he not allowed to report that T. Higgins was that hurt? Like, that seems not right according to NFL. That pissed off a lot of people, and I'm there with you. I had a team just like it with a big fat 0 from T. Higgins. Let's
go the other way first. Jarek or Travis Homer, assuming no Ken Walker. Jarek or Antonio Gibson.
Gibson.
Rashad White.
Who kept the lead, by the way.
I know.
Against Cincinnati, passing Rashad White.
Rashad White. Tyler Algier against the Saints. I'd probably play Jarek.
I probably, yeah, that's about my break right there, yeah.
All right, I'll do that, and I'll bump down Travis. Would you rather play Algier or Travis Homer?
Algier. I was on the Homer bandwagon last week. I really was, and I just thought that they would trust him more, the fact that they didn't.
How about
that was a matchup for it.
Rex Burkhead or Travis Homer?
How did you make the playoffs? That's my question. Look, this could be passing though for Houston, which Ogunbowale been actually, and Ogunbowale's been got goal line carries.
I know.
Too. Like who the hell knows what Houston's going to do? They don't even know what they're doing at quarterback. So I would go Travis Homer. Honestly, against San Francisco, I don't care. I'm just talking myself in and out of this one. I'll go Rex Burkhead, Homer, Ogunbowale.
Okay, so how far up should we move Pacheco then? Would you go? You said over Jamal Williams. Would you play Zonovan Knight or would you play?
I'd play Zonovan Knight. Yeah,
and you would. Play...
I know Detroit's run defense has been better, but still, and potentially, like you said, the weather. This could be a cold game, which leans more into the run. I would play Zonovan Knight.
You know, Knight played fewer snaps than Michael Carter last week.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that weird? Michael Carter sucked in that game.
It did, but it was the touches are there, and they were behind. I don't think that we expect the Jets to be behind that much this week.
Okay, I'll bump Pacheco to 24, and I'll keep Zonovan Knight at number 23. If Jeff will, if
you're saying it like
that,
honestly, you know what? Because I was just about to say I would play both over James Conner because of the matchup and because Colt McCoy is at corner. And I know you're going to make your argument for Colt McCoy, just check down, say blah, blah, blah. For the fact that Conner got banged up in that game and then they're headed to Denver, I'd put Conner behind both of them.
I see me and the fantasy exec when I was on with them with Corey and Nando last week, and we were yelling about this. I was like, you got to play James Conner this week. Like he's good every single game. Since he's come back from injury, he hasn't had a bad game. Good every single time.
True.
Like I don't see how you could bench him.
I'm not saying bench him. I'm just saying move two people behind him.
No,
or in front of him.
Might have to move him up. May have to play him over Brian Robinson.
Against the Giants, nah. But
no, I'm not going to do that. But like 15 for 85, a touchdown, 6 catches, 30 yards. That was on Monday night. 25 for 120, and then 3 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown the week before that. 14 for 42, a touchdown. 2 for 12, he scored your touchdown. He was fine that week too on his 16 touches. Like there are very few players right now, running backs especially, who are essentially locked into 17 plus touches a game, and it's valuable even against Denver, who you can run on.
It's fair. You're scared. I don't know if I could
scared of James Conner.
No, I'm scared of Denver with Colt McCoy. McCoy.
But we're not scared about Denver with Mark Rippon or Brett Rippon, Cal Ripken.
Yeah, this is going to end up. Can we smash the under on this game?
Well, watch out for defensive scores. They'll get you.
That is a good point. By the way, just because I was seeing the one spot in front of Connor beat Ezekiel Elliott, Rich Rebar tweeted yesterday, and then I looked it up yesterday after that. Do you know And the last 4 games, Pollard and Zeke are combined for RB16 on the year. Like if you just took their last 4 games, they'd be RB16 on the year.
The only time I think that Zeke has finished outside of the top 10, or Pollard has finished outside of the top 10 at running back in a single week was Thanksgiving. And it was during the game, like right before kickoff, the middle game on Thanksgiving, there was like 10 of us at the office all watching. And Cuss proclaimed that Tony Pollard was easily a top 5 running back in football. He has worst game of the year.
As soon as you started telling that, I was just waiting for the cussed part.
Just like, really? Like, you'd rather have him over Derrick Henry? He's like, well, at this point, yes. It's like, okay.
I do want to go a little bit deeper for your ranks for one person.
Oh, God. I was already going to move on. Okay.
I know. Well, I want to bring him up. DeAndre Swift. Here's the only chance that he needs to move higher. The only 2 games he's been off the injury report, week 1 and week 13. He was RB1 in both.
Here's the key part. If you have DeAndre Swift on your team, you didn't make the fucking playoffs.
Okay, there you go. So is that why you wanted to move on? I was just going to say, if he's not on the injury report at all come Friday, there you go. You know you start DeAndre Swift. It's as simple as that.
You're a slut for DeAndre Swift, by the way. I love that guy.
I think most people do. It's just there's no such thing as a healthy DeAndre Swift.
What would they like about him? That he had like 4 really good games at the beginning of last year?
No, the fact is when he's healthy, but that's the problem. That's what, a 10% rate? 15% rate? It's the problem is with healthy, as you see it every single time. When he's healthy, he's a top 12 running back. It's just that's so tough to find, is a healthy DeAndre Swift.
Wide receiver ranks for week number 15. Oh, Jake, by the way, if you haven't got Christmas presents for anyone yet, omahasteaks.com, 50% site-wide deals right now. They ship it to whoever you want's house. And if you use code MAYO, you get an extra $40 off. Make this cheap on yourself.
I know. I looked at it last week. I wasn't for other people. I was looking for myself.
There you go. You can send out Christmas gifts too. Send those out. I got Jefferson at 1, Amon-Ra at number 2, Chase Diggs, Tyreek if he plays, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams. I did this before the Monday night game. Should I drop Hopkins down a bit, or is he going to be fine in this game?
If it was no Marquise Brown, which hasn't been great, by the way. I don't know why we're all of a sudden using Marquise Brown in the short area so much. But point still being, he's out there. If he wasn't, this was back before, I'd say Hopkins fine is top 10. I'd say now that Marquise Brown is healthy and in the mix completely, Hopkins would probably be about Waddle, Allen, Higgins if he plays, range, like right around there. So not far, but outside wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2.
All right, so 11 through 20 is Olave.
I like Godwin more.
Can I do the rankings?
You asked the question.
No, I
was
didn't.
continuing with my Hopkins thought.
You stopped. You stopped. You gave me some rope. Wanted to move on with the rankings. We'll circle back to that. Olave at number 11, but I guess I'll bump him up to number 10 here. McLaurin, Waddle, Allen, Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf is the top 20 here. Bad matchup for DK Metcalf. What are you going to do? Sit DK Metcalf? Fuck no. That's not happening. So Hopkins, I'd probably play him over T. Higgins just because T. Higgins is a legit coin flip, whether he's going to be healthy or not for this game. Should I bump Waddle down? Is Waddle too high here?
But for who? Like, I could see
you like Godwin.
Garrett Wilson.
You can keep talking about Godwin if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think Godwin has been the volume master since he came back healthy. I would play Godwin over Waddle. He's in the conversation with Allen over Higgins for sure, as you just mentioned, for that concern. Garrett Wilson comes down to, what's the weather? If it clears up and it's just 40 degrees or something like that, I still like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson and Godwin, I would move both of them up to 13. Well, no, 12, I guess, because we're bumping out Hopkins. So basically, if weather's clear, Wilson, Godwin, McLaurin, and down from there with Hopkins behind them. If the weather is precipitation 30s, then I think where you have Wilson is still fair. I wouldn't move him really down for the weather because I think the volume's still going to be there to offset it, and you can always do something after the catch. But I would like him even more if the weather clears up.
The weather right now is 43 and sunny.
Boom. There you go. As of right now, Garrett Wilson would be right behind McLaurin.
5 days out, how could that ever change?
5 hours out. How could that ever change?
So, okay, here's how I've rejigged it. I've bumped Hopkins down, so Olave's number 10 right now. McLaurin, Allen, Garrett Wilson, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins. T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman, Ayuk, and Metcalf. How much of a boost do you think that Ayuk gets with no Deebo Samuel right now? Do you think it's substantially more, or are we still looking at 8 targets?
No, I think where you have him is fair. I think that's around where you're going to settle in. The big thing, and we just saw it from Purdy again, is Purdy's just not going to throw it downfield. He doesn't have much of an arm. That was part of the reason, slap the Mr. Irrelevant. Haven't heard that 1,000 times already. But I expected a little bit more from Kittle last week because of that. Oh, what sets up this week? If you're playing the single game Thursday night, I'm probably going to have some George Kittle captain. I can tell you that much against Seattle, because that could be the game, which is why I put that out there to say that I think Ayuk sits in there not just because of Kittle, but because Purdy. I mean, look at what Christian McCaffrey did. And there's going to be plenty of checkdowns for him too. So I had Ayuk last week as kind of that Gabe Davis wide receiver 3 because he was going to be third, bigger plays downfield. That's just not where Brock Purdy lives. But now with no Deebo, he's just clearly the number 2, 1/2. So I think where you have him is a fair spot. I think the conversation of a Metcalf versus Ayuk, given the matchup versus the quarterback in his situation, I think that's a fair spot.
It's not that I don't love Kittle this week, by the way. I see what you're saying. It's not even flip a coin at this point. It's like roll a 8-sided dice. If it comes up on that 1, then George Kittle's going to have his ceiling game. If not, he's legit 3 for 37 every game.
No, that's sure. But because of that upside is why I'd say I would chase that captain play. That's all I was making. It's I don't think he's going to unseat Travis Kelce this week, but I mean, look at the tight ends. Mark Andrews basically, we'll save it for tight ends.
Yeah, I have Kittle a bit down. I actually bumped Andrews way down too. 21 is Juju, then into Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, Christian Watson, with what I'm guessing is the return of Romeo Doubs in this game. I still like him as a wide receiver too. It's just I think there's more people to go around at this point who are probably as healthy as he is. Zay Jones, Jerry Jeudy, Devonta Smith, Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore, then Gabe Davis, Adam Thielen, Mike Evans, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Alan Lazard, Nico Collins, if he plays, Quez Watkins, George Pickens, DJ Chark, and then I have Elijah Moore at number 40 with the conceit that Corey Davis is probably not going to play with his concussion. Went 5 for 55 last week, was running all the routes, and here's the sneaky thing about Detroit is that you can pass on them. That's doable.
I thought you were going to say they're not any good.
No, they're good, but
they're game and a half out of the playoffs. They do get pressure. They have been better against the run, but yes, they still are very vulnerable to the pass. And for everybody that might be concerned that Denzel Mims actually stepped into the Corey Davis role, that doesn't matter. That just means,
and that's good though. That means Mims can play the outside. That means Elijah Moore can play the slot, where you can dominate the Lions.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with it. It took the words out of my mouth. So, Nico Collins, if he play, to be honest with you, if Nico Collins plays there, I would put Chris Moore further down. But if Nico Collins is out, I would just basically put Chris Moore there. I don't want 2 Texans inside of my top 50 even, because I'm looking at names behind Chris Moore if Nico Collins plays. And
I mean, we just talked about it's probably going to be a lot of passing. They're playing Kansas City. It's going to be a lot of cheap points for 2 guys. Like I don't have Cooks in is why. And I don't think Alanis.
Sure.
I don't think Alanis Forsett or
no.
Alanis
I was
Dorsett.
saying I was just talking specifically about Collins.
Oh, okay.
Like I just don't want Chris Moore as high as you have him if Nico Collins plays. I like Nico Collins there. I'd actually probably have the conversation where you could say, hey, coin flip with Nico Collins and Adam Thielen, although I would still play Mike Evans and Donovan Peoples-Jones. What my point was is that if Nico Collins is there, I wouldn't want Chris Moore. I would actually play Slayton and Jacoby and Deontay. I would definitely play Treylon Burks if he returns. That's Chris Moore would fall, is all I'm saying. That's
sort of a hedge ranking on Treylon Burks right now at number 45 because I don't know whether or not he's going to play. And you do have to play it with, even if he passes protocol, he's susceptible now. Concussions tend to reoccur much faster once you've had one rather than the other. And Ryan Tannehill throws him get concussion balls all game long.
That is true. If Jacoby Myers plays,
he should be high,
the fact
right?
That with Devontae Parker out against the Raiders, I mean this is setting up for Jacoby's 9 for 110 type of game.
I'll tell you whose fantasy team could use that. Pats. I had to start Nelson Aguilar last week. That's a bad thing about 14 team. Like, it's our keeper league and it's our 14 team league. So like, there's legit nobody on the waiver wire. It's like your guy goes down, you're absolutely fucked.
Hey, look, I know people like him, but that's why I hate 14 team leagues, just because it's the injuries. You could get destroyed within a very short amount of time, and it's not even like it's just 2 or 3 injuries, and your season's almost done. I'm glad you survived with that. How much did Nelson Aguilar get you? Like 6?
7.1, I think.
Yeah. There you go.
Something like that.
This is survive in advance. There you go.
I didn't win. I got in on points, so it did make a difference.
Oh.
I need all. Listen, as soon as Cooper Kupp went out, my season was basically over. Yet I've somehow scraped by. You really forget that his 30 points a week really helped your fantasy team.
That's exactly what happened to me in the flex leagues. I was like 3rd. And then Cooper Kupp went down, and I just started falling down. And then I was going to get in on points, but that was the thing I was telling you about before the show. The freaking Jeff Ratcliffe doubleheader loss dropped him to 7th with he had slightly more points than I did, which is the perfect storm. But it all came down to Cooper Kupp.
DJ Moore got hurt at the end of the Seattle game last week with an ankle injury. No, been zero reporting on what is going on with him to this point. So I have him in at number 31 right now. If he doesn't go, are you interested in any Carolina receiver?
Nope.
Okay. That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know. Yes or no? No is where I was at as well. So I bumped down Chris Moore to 46. If Nico and Cooks are both out, he's in the mid-30s. And then, I mean,
hopefully you don't have to go this far.
Like, if you had to pick up, okay, here's an interesting one, because I think all 4 of these guys are on a waiver wire if somehow it came down to it. Skoranek, who Baker really seemed to like. Richie James, the Crocodile Anna, Trenton Irwin, because Tyler Boyd's going to be out, and Jawan Jennings, who should be playing all of the snaps for the Niners. Between those 4 guys, which one do you like the best?
I would go with Skoranek.
That's
just
how I
because.
Have it,
yeah, James and Isaiah Hodgins have basically been the exact same. It's 40 to 50 yards, week, 40, 50 yards every single week. Oh, maybe he scored a touchdown. Like, okay, fine. Like, maybe you get the touchdown and it's good. We've seen before from the Bengals that really, even when everybody's out and it was T. Higgins and nobody else, like the Mike Thomas thing, like I don't know if I want to roll my dice on Trenton Irwin. Maybe it can hit, but I'd maybe take that risk if there's no Hayden Hurst. If Hayden Hurst is back, then forget about Irwin, because Hurst should just be the answer. And they'll probably run more this week. Jawan Jennings, I just don't think they need him. And especially with Purdy, if Garoppolo was at quarterback, then I would feel better. But that's, Skoranek, even though Tutu Atwell had the most targets in that game.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to go on with them. And Tutu Atwell will get 18 jet sweeps during the game, too. Don't forget that.
Oh, God. Who was the one? Oh, I just saw his name and it went out of my mind. The one that the Rams had that one year where he ran for 600 and caught 600 yards.
Was it Oz Hakeem?
No. It was the wide receiver that was similar to Tutu Atwell. I'm sure everybody watching the video right now is screaming at me, but it was that Harvin? 1 year. No. Percy Harvin wasn't on the Rams. Percy Harvin was on the Seahawks.
I'm trying to think if he was also on the Vikings, too. And he also played probably for like 5 other teams at the end of his career that I can't remember.
This is going to piss me off. I got to find it. Well, this Rams stats from 2016 would be my guess.
You effort that. I'll move on to quarterbacks. Hurts, number 1. Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen. Justin Fields. Justin Herbert. That's the top 5. Burrow. Dak. Cousins, Lawrence, Taylor Heineke, sorry. Then Matt Ryan at number 11. So I do like both those guys this week. Back to the discussion at the very beginning of the show. Mike White, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, the Goof at number 15. Tua at 16. Rodgers, Purdy, Carr, Tannehill. It's a tough week at quarterback, weirdly enough. Like, I feel very good about the top 5. And then once you get to Burrow, I mean, it's a tough matchup against Tampa. I know that Purdy made it look pretty easy, but there's no chance I would sit Burrow in this circumstance. But I don't feel like this is a 40-point game for Burrow. Maybe I'm wrong. Dak against the Jags. Maybe they run a bunch. You never know with him. He did not look good against the Texans last week. And then you're just into Cousins. Cousins has a nice matchup and everything, but he's still Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, the only one, I'd play Deshaun Watson.
No.
Over Purdy.
No.
Yeah.
Don't play Deshaun Watson. Just don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
The rust started.
He's so bad.
Started shaking off.
No, it didn't. He fucking sucks.
It started shaking off. It was decent. By the way, I found it, and it's because it's a TA too. It's Tavon Austin.
Oh yeah, he just got signed
Yeah,
by
actually,
someone, didn't he?
It was 400 and 400, not 600 and 600, but he also had the receiving game too. But yeah, he had 405 rushing and then 405 receiving, 404 rushing. It was Tavon Austin, another 2-2 Atwell.
How is it possible that Tavon Austin is only 31 years old? I thought he was 7.
I know, it feels like he's been out of the league for 10 years.
I know.
No, look, my biggest issue is Ryan Tannehill sucks. He doesn't run anymore.
Okay. So you're going to bring up quarterback number 20? He did, right? He ran last week.
mean,
he was running. He runs like
we
this.
just
Very upright with
we
little
just
steps.
lost 3 quarterbacks. Yes, I'm going to bring up quarterback 20 of the fact that I would say I would just start Deshaun Watson over Tannehill, and I would start him over Purdy. Because you brought up the point about Purdy. He's banged up.
Should I have Brady higher?
Why? This Brady is not good. This version of Brady is not good, which probably means this is finally the 1 week he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns. Hasn't done it all year. This will be the week.
We got some problems at the bottom here. So Baker at 26, Colt McCoy, Brett Rippon, Desmond Ridder, Jeff Driscoll, Anthony Brown, Mitch Trubisky, and then I actually have a 33rd quarterback in Davis Mills because they play 2 quarterbacks now.
You should have just put both the Texans quarterbacks back to back at 32 and 33.
No, because Driscoll runs. That's not terrible.
Yeah, but you're going to take half of a game of Driscoll?
Sure. I could not pick Anthony Brown out of a lineup of 1. I'd never heard of this guy before.
Most people have it. I'll just put it this way. I didn't even spend time scouting him out of college because he didn't make my cut list for the quarterback. So there you go.
So real decisions here. Like if you've been riding Goff, that's great. Hasn't been very good on the road. And this is good. Like I believe in the Jets defense. The Jets defense is good.
Yes. I would look, hey, you can sit here and yell at me all day long. Jared Goff has 1 touchdown on the road.
2.
Outdoors on the road.
2.
To be clear. Because
outdoors on the road, yes.
Yeah, because on the road in Minnesota, inside. Outdoors on the road, 1 touchdown this year, a lot of zeros. He's trash. I would have Jared Goff down by Andy Dalton. I do not want to touch Jared Goff. I do not want to touch this team. I would start Amon-Ra St. Brown and nobody else, and I've been on the DJ Chark, picking him up on waivers for weeks and weeks and weeks. I played Jameson Williams in flex leagues, got the Hail Mary play on that touchdown, and it worked out, even though I didn't make the playoffs. So all that to say, I've been with you. I wrote up Jared Goff last week as a great play at quarterback. Everybody was on Jared Goff. I'm not touching him this week. There is no way I want Jared Goff in my playoffs for week 1.
Would you okay, if it came down to it, would you rather have Goff or Tua?
Tua.
Okay.
Not even a second thought.
Goff or Rodgers?
Rodgers.
Goff or Dalton?
Goff or Carr. Carr.
Goff
or Watson.
Goff or Dalton?
Goff.
Here's the sneaky thing about Dalton.
He's not any good?
Well, no, he's not, but he's had some big fantasy games.
He has. They've just been like bonkers. They've been like, hey, I'm going to throw. He's
Jameis.
Good games. He's
I
was going to say, that's what it is.
They have Jameis on the bench, but he's doing the Jameis stuff.
That 100% what I was about to say. The soul of Jameis enters his body for some of those games with 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Wow. That's where I think he deserves to be, because it's against Atlanta at home. Could happen. Could just be a run fest for both teams. But you might get one of those games where Jared Goff, maybe for the one time, finally surprises us outdoors on the road. Yeah, that's the conversation I would be having. That's how far I would push Jared Goff down.
I'm not going to be playing Jared Goff this week, Jake. I'm going to be taking my chances with Matt Ryan. Good Lord.
I love it. I love that that's what it's come down to.
Well, hopefully McCaffrey can score me like 70 points on Thursday night. Then I can like reevaluate the situation.
I'm so low on Goff this week that if I'm looking for a pure Hail Mary, I'd just go with Desmond Ridder over him.
There's no way that turns out well. Or maybe it's fantastic.
How do you know?
I don't.
Why don't you like Desmond Ridder? Why do you hate him?
Why should I like Desmond Ridder? How about that?
Because he was the most consistent quarterback coming out of college. He runs. He'll run potentially as much as like a Jalen Hurts or a Justin Fields. So
Okay.
you got that going for you. And he's consistent with his arm. He's got some questions throwing deep and outside. Like, he's consistent. I'll give him that. He could throw 220, a touchdown, run for 60 and a touch, and then all of a sudden you've got a top 12 quarterback.
This game reeks of 4 interceptions for Desmond Ridder.
I don't think is Lattimore playing. That defense has been susceptible to pass all year long.
Is Lattimore still alive? Has he played this year?
Mike Evans took a soul. Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe. The rest of their defense is back, though. It's just him who's missing now.
Okay, so they're getting most of their pieces back.
Yeah, and if there's any team that you don't need Lattimore for, it's probably the Falcons.
Sure. Well, but they're going to run a billion times.
Sure, great.
It's the rushing upside of Ritter that I'm going to
Okay, you know what? I'll bump up Ritter. Ritter can be just a spot ahead of Baker Mayfield. Because Sam Darnold runs too, by the way.
I don't know.
He also has very little steps when he runs.
Head banging, helmet banging Baker Mayfield? I don't know.
Yeah, what a hero.
Did you see the team's reaction when he was doing that?
No.
Oh, it was pretty funny.
Tight ends.
Tight ends.
Kelsey, Freiermuth, Hawkinson, Andrews, Ingram, Schultz, Njoku, Komet, Everett, Dulcich, your boy, George Kittle. You were right about Okonkwo last week. I was very wrong. I played Jordan Akins instead. That didn't work out well.
Oh, that's it?
I
thought you were going to keep... You were at 12. I thought you were going to keep going.
No, those are the 12. Okay, Moreau, Hurst, if he plays. Juwan Johnson, Tyler Higbee, Taysom Hill, Dawson
Darren
Knox.
Waller could come back.
Well, of course he could come back. If he comes back, I'll change the fucking rankings.
I'm throwing that out there for everybody because you always tell everybody you're going to update the rankings. I'm just giving everybody information.
I was going to finish. You cut me off at 19 in the rankings before I could say anything.
I'm just having fun with you at this point.
I got 3 shows to film today, Jake. Okay?
So do I.
Yeah, mine go on way longer than yours.
I've legitimately got an hour show coming up in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you have to show up for your shows. I have far more to do than that.
I hosted that show.
That's great. Do you
And the show after that.
do you do graphics and edit and sound mix?
No, because I don't have to worry about that because they don't care about it.
You should care about it.
I care about it. I don't have those skills like you built 10 years ago.
You can know better time to start than now, Jake. Always get new skills.
Yeah, and then that amount of time that I have, which is like, I'm
Little?
too busy putting up the waivers article and responding to the comments like you don't.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine responding to comments. I'm doing a show where I tell you what I think. What the fuck do people need comments for? Like,
You would be surprised.
I put the numbers next to the fucking people I would play. I talk to you about it, about the guys I'm uncertain about. Then I have my concrete list. Like, what else is there to ask? I know you have Travis Kelce at number 1, but I am really feeling Kyle Granson this week. Do you think I should play him? You actually answer these fucking morons. These
I'm
mouth
a man of the
breathers.
people, as you always say.
You are a man of the people. I just assume these people are just like looking in a mirror and like not realizing it's them on the other side and being like, whoa. And they're like really terrified of their own shadow. These are the people that I see when they ask me questions like that. Like, figure it the fuck out. What's wrong with you?
I legitimately wrote up Zay Jones as a sleeper last week and how you should still go back to him.
Okay.
You're welcome, everybody who listened. And one of the comments was, what do you think about Zay Jones coming off a bad game?
You shouldn't answer these people. You're enabling.
By the way,
Yeah?
Mark Andrews, I'm first of all annoyed to hell. I had a 4-way parlay that I thought was a guaranteed lock, and I smashed the other 3 pieces of that lock except for Mark Andrews. 4.5 receptions was all I needed. If it's Huntley or Anthony Brown, you know where I'm going. You know exactly where I'm going with this, Pat. David Njoku, I would start over Mark Andrews right now.
All right, deal. I have him at number 7. Another key member of the Pat Mayo fantasy team, Mark Andrews.
God,
It's all the entire year.
I traded for him.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
No, I traded for him right
Thanks.
before this went downhill.
Let's close this out with defenses. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Dallas, Buffalo, San Francisco are the top 5. Plenty of defenses to pick up this week, though. However, Steelers, Ravens, Commanders, Saints, and Jets to figure out the rest of the top 10. Then I got the Panthers, the Cardinals, Browns, Packers, and New England, 11 through 15. I initially had the Browns a lot higher. However, I do think that Baltimore's only game plan is to run the ball, which does not foster a lot of fantasy points. Unless Deshaun Watson is the number 1 quarterback, like you said, and they have to catch up the entire time. But again, I just don't see that happening.
No. As funny as I'm looking at all my streamers, and you have most of my streamers pretty high. Like I have even Carolina against Pittsburgh. You have them at 11. I had Denver, Arizona, 18. You can check out there. Maybe you could argue a spot or two higher, but who the really hell cares? Minnesota I had in there because of that potential Matt Ryan downfall. The only one I have a little bit higher than you, but not by much. Cincinnati against Tom Brady at this point, taking the sacks and interceptions. Tom Brady is regularly throwing potential picks.
Was there more to that, or was that just the end of the sentence?
That was the end of the sentence. He's been regularly throwing potential picks. That's the end of the sentence.
Okay. It all depends on if Hendrickson plays or not, because if he doesn't play, they're not going to have much of a pass rush.
Okay.
And
that's it. I mean, you had everybody else I was going to talk about. You already have there. I love the Jets.
Yeah, Jets are in a nice spot here. Really like I really like the Ravens this week. For some reason they got dropped in the league I cared the most about. And I'm like, how much fab should I spend on them to use this week? Because I think they could light up Watson. Although the good thing about the bad thing about Watson for the fantasy defenses is his passes are so bad that no one can catch them. So that's a problem.
And that is true. I will say the Jets not the most glorious week 17, but if they're sitting out there, they get Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle the next 3 games.
It's not bad. Geno revenge game on a team that can't run the ball.
It's true. There was another one that was sitting out there. I forget who it was. It has a pretty nice 3 weeks. Is it Denver?
I think it's Cleveland, actually. I think Cleveland has a very nice schedule to end things.
That was the one. Baltimore, especially what's going on. But like you said, whether it's Huntley or Anthony Brown, they're just going to run a billion times. But then they get the Saints in Washington. You
really have to pray that the Browns jump out to a lead in these games. And then they can kind of tee off on whoever it is. Who do they have? You said you have Baltimore, then who?
The Browns, the Saints, the Saints, and then Washington.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And if you play in Week 18, they get the Steelers, which is still pretty nice.
And if you really want to roll the dice on interceptions, I mean, not this week, but the Chargers have the Colts and the Rams to finish things off.
I like that. Probably not. Probably don't need to go there.
Probably not, but if just in case you're in one of your 14-team leagues.
Yeah, it's true. All right, Jake Ciely, at All In Kid, your rankings come out this evening, just a stroke after midnight.
Just a stroke after midnight with sleepers that you can go ahead and go ask about in comments after I write them up.
These are my sleepers. Are they a sleeper this week, Jake?
Are they a good play?
Let me ask some more questions.
You know where I'm going to be at 50? You're just going to see me in one of those straight jackets inside the thing. Just in the room going like, you should start him. Yes, you should start him.
If you are familiar with Arabic numbers, then I suggest that you hit up my rankings. They have the numbers with a little dot next to them, so you know which order that they are. Chronological too, Jake. Top to bottom. You can just read it scrolling down. And for people who don't know, because Arabic numbers are normal numbers. Someone didn't know that and we're like, what do you mean? Like, you fucking idiots. Anyway, the rankings are down in the description.
Angry.
Play in the Listeners League. I'm giving away, there's $1,500 more to give away to you, the people, as a Christmas bonus. So you can hit the link down in the description right now, and you can find all of the ways to get into that draw. Highly suggest it, because none of them take more than 10 seconds to do, and you can find yourself with some cold, hard cash right before the holidays. Who wouldn't want that? Maybe stupid question guy doesn't want that because he doesn't understand the concept of money. I don't know. Anyway, smash the like and sub to the channel on the way out. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!